yielding.
Thank you, Senator Rosen. We'll turn next to Ranking Member Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Gilroy, you said something that I thought was spot on. The checks just don't go as far as they used to. I'd love for you to expound upon that a little bit, but can you help us understand not just the numbers, but the people who are affected by the impact of inflation and the rising prices? I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. I think what we're seeing are people that are not on these programs for life, but we're kind of filling a gap for them. Um, every statistic has a face, and I think that's the important piece to always consider. I think of a gentleman who is 65-year-old retired construction worker who was getting by, but his refrigerator went out. And faced with that additional cost, it caused him to fall behind on his rent, fall behind on his utilities. And he came to us, and we were able to provide food, personal hygiene items, get his rent caught up, and pay his utilities off. And it just allowed him to get out of a tough spot and be able to get back into a normal life. And he's now not using our services. And I think that's kind of our goal, is to kind of be a stopgap, an area that we can help people that are facing short-term issues and get them back on the road. And so I think he's a perfect example. And it's just several people that we deal with on a short-term basis that we provide a couple of bags of groceries and some cleaning supplies and some help, and it gets them through the month.
Things that Miss Masters spoke about as well as that stopgap, being able to use assistance in the fourth week of the month since the 3 weeks worked. I think that's a really important point that you made, Miss Masters, as well as Mr. Gilroy. I'd love to ask you to maybe, Mr. Gilroy, reflect on, I missed the number, I think it was 23% of your grandparents are supporting grandkids in their households. That number seems about right to me, maybe even a little higher in certain communities, but the truth is, I'd love for you to talk about the impact of that as well.
Well, I think the issue that we have is people are living on fixed incomes. They're getting by. They've figured out how to do that. But then all of a sudden, their life is disrupted by having additional people in the household and being responsible to care for them. And, I go back to the woman that I'd mentioned. I mean, she was getting by, but all of a sudden, here's three teenagers. I can't imagine three teenagers in the house and how much groceries they would eat. But she came to us, and we were able to help them out. And I think there's a fair amount of people that we see that are facing similar issues where life all of a sudden changes for them and they don't know how to deal with it. And it's just an honor to work with ECHO to know that we're helping people out.
Thank you, Mr. Gilroy. I have one more question for you. I will say that it was 2 or 3 years ago, Mr. Chairman, when the number came out that about 49% of Americans did not have more than $500 in their savings account. So having been that American and when I was a younger adult, realizing that when your tire goes, when you blow a tire, it's not just a bad day, it is a crisis. When your refrigerator goes out, it is not just an alarming situation, it is a crisis. When you have 3 young boys move into your house, let us pray. That might be more than a crisis. That is a challenge. I know how much I ate when I was a kid. I know how much I eat now. But the truth is that so many of our nations, the American family, when they have a single incident happen, it's not just uncomfortable or, gosh, wish that wouldn't have happened. It leads to a crisis, and then the domino effect that we sometimes don't really appreciate. When one thing goes down, it's a multiplier effect, and it's really hard to catch up. So hearing about the organizations that help folks catch up and get back to plateau, to a place where they can Congress moving forward as well. Mr. Gilroy, the one question I did have for you, and I thought it was an interesting concept, the point system, so that you're making sure that the folks that are benefiting from the food programs are having a balanced diet. Seconds or so, how that point system works?
Okay, well, basically, we have a navigator that will do intake for a client and determines both how many people are in their household as well as any kind of health issues that they may have. And so they're assigned a certain amount of points, and the points then are given out on a monthly basis, and they're designed to so they can order directly online what they want, which I think is a big step forward. That you get what you want, not what I want to give you, and
Yes.
I think that's a very positive impact for our clients. But we also design it so that you can't just get all soda. You get so many of every different food category. So it requires you to look and order at a more balanced meal than just looking at snacks or items that might be different than that. We also look at what their health issues might be. So if they're diabetic or have hypertension, we'll design their selection. If you're hypertension, you're not going to get salted green beans. You're only going to see low salt green beans and other items like that. So it's a simplified process to make it work and do the best that we possibly can in both providing equality in food supply by the numbers of people and also provide some healthy patterns
Thank,
for our clients.
thank you, sir. I love the point system, and I do love the fact that individuals may have and the impact on the choices that they make.
Thank you, Ranking Member Scott.